for the Lenten services this year is Luke's theme of all are welcome. Last week, Rafik challenged us a bit on who is all. What are the edges of all being welcome? And tonight then I would like to talk about what it really means to welcome the alls. Recently I had a conversation with a bright young woman who said, I visited your church several times, but I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what is going on. Got me thinking. And I'm going to ask you to suppose with me, kind of think of it. Pretend you're going on a journey to a foreign country. You've got several hurdles that you need to think about and overcome. One might be language, one might be money, one might be the social customs. Maybe it's even an English-speaking country, but the pronunciation and word usage is so different that it might throw you off. I'm thinking of Scotland. Maybe the money is confusing. Maybe the social customs. Do you hug? Do you shake hands? Do you not touch? What's rude? What's polite? What's acceptable? How do you tip? You know, you can go on down that list. And it would be so much more comfortable if someone explained those things to you while you're there or even before you go. Maybe a guide, maybe a class, a book. With that in mind, put yourself in another situation. Suppose you have little or no experience with Christianity, with church, especially a liturgical church. Possibly even have negative feelings and experiences, things you've heard people say or whatever. You walk into beautiful Savior. Pretty new kind of experience. You are greeted at the door with a handshake and a welcome. Wow, that's a nice plus. You go to the next station and you're handed a program and it's got some instructions in it. This is great. You sit down, you glance at it, you don't really have time to read it, but you sit down and you wait. And then Pastor Jake comes in with two other people in ceremonial costumes. Remember, you've never been to church. And then he turns around and warmly welcomes you, and that feels good. So far, so good. Then comes, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. What? Whose Father? Whose Son? Spirits? You may quickly realize you don't know the language. What are they talking about? Then they start to sing. And it may be one of our more modern melodic songs with a rhythm to it, or it might be some slightly archaic poetry set to slow music. And we could be getting more lost. When the sermon comes, this you can understand and appreciate, if you've not completely glazed over by now. Then there's the offering. What? I have to pay? Do I have to? Do I want to? What will people think if I don't? How much am I supposed to put in? Who's going to see? It's an awkward moment. It's often an awkward moment. Then communion. Communion gets really confusing. You see people getting up and doing things. They all act like they know what they're doing, and you don't know what you're supposed to do. And so you don't. But you're hearing, eat the body, drink the blood of Christ who died. What? This needs a little explanation too. It can feel similar to walking into that foreign country. The language, the vocabulary, the money, the customs, outside of your understanding. So, I've been thinking, how do we welcome people? What can we do about this? In my home, when somebody comes to my home, whether it's a friend or a stranger, the first thing I do is offer them a drink. Do you want coffee? Do you want beer? Do you want a snack? Do you want Where should we sit? Make introductions, perhaps. And then you might need to explain special customs, like we take off our shoes in this house, or we don't. Somebody's sleeping, so we need to lower our voices. Whatever the special circumstances are, you explain them. And then you ask them questions and get them to tell your stories until they're comfortable. And you have a conversation going. Well, how does that relate to how we welcome people, especially people who are not churched people, into our church? Well, I've actually been thinking about this since I was a teenager, and we've come a long ways in the Lutheran church since then. But I think my recent conversation says there must be more we need to do. So we now print the whole service in one thing with some constructions. That's a big improvement over the days when we had to juggle a bulletin and a lectionary and maybe one or two hymnals and go back and forth. And most of our language has been updated as well. But there's still some vocabulary that's peculiar only to the church. And hymns, we've got a lot of hymns that are modern language and melodic and with rhythm, and we still have some of the archaic poetry set to slow music. Sometimes I wonder what we're really saying in those. Now, some churches are way ahead of us on this. They're casual, they have all updated language, and they tend to be popular. I wonder why. But that's a challenge to us. That is a welcoming challenge to us. What do we do about this? What more can we do about this? My thoughts are that first we need to be aware of how people feel and how this looks and sounds to them. Help by explaining. Have you been in a Lutheran church before? How does it feel to you? Is there anything I can help you with? Can I explain? I can be excited about this and explain it to you and tell you about it and help you through that. Then we can always be looking for ways to improve the vocabulary program. When we're so used to special church vocabulary, we don't even always realize that it's only church vocabulary. Watch for that and think about that and think of little ways. Pastor Jake suggested maybe we could make little notes in the margins sometimes and just, kind of explain this or that little thing. Bill suggested that we give visitors a special pamphlet, Understanding Our Worship Service. That's another possibility, but look and be aware. And then finally, do with intention the things that we already do well. Greet people at the door, offer them coffee, offer them snacks, ask them questions. Where are you from? What brought you here? Invite them to Wednesday night or to something else. And be intentional and do our best to see that all people are truly welcome.